Hello there. My name is David Kraft, and today I'm going to talk about why I don't like Elvis, in the hope of educating some people about rock and roll and rhythm and blues and so forth. One of the main reasons why I'm doing this live broadcast is because I'm so bored of explaining myself in conversations about rock and roll and my feelings about rock and roll, that I thought I'll just show people the YouTube clip, because I'm trying not to repeat myself, because I find it quite boring. So look, these are my personal opinions about Elvis and rock and roll and rhythm and blues, and they're not. There's no right or wrong, but this is what I feel is needed really in music today. I think that people need to think more about what they're listening to and explore more rather than just eat what you're given. Music today, I feel, in 2018 is mostly rubbish, sentimental stuff, and repetitive stuff. So I feel that bands, people like Ed Sheeran, is sentimental rubbish. It's a personal opinion. I also feel that a lot of the house music and rap music is really uninventive. We're being force-fed music every day in the media. And if you go to a party, for example, there's this formula. We go to a pub, there's a formula of the music that you listen to. You get bands from the present day, which are popular at the moment, and the music, in my opinion, is of a very poor quality. Then you get a disco section, where in the party or in a night in the pub, where you have ABBA and various other disco musicians perform. And then you have the tokenistic 60s section, where you hear bands like the Kinks. Actually, I love the Kinks, but there are all sorts of other bands in the 60s that no one listens to anymore, like the Clique, the Pretty Things, the Beau Brummels, the Fleur de Lis. No one's ever heard of these bands, and no one listens to them anymore because they just listen to the Beatles and other tokenistic music music of the time. Don't get me started on the Beatles. But anyway, why I hate Elvis? You get this tokenistic 50s rock and roll section in the party, where they play Rock Around the Clock, and they play Chubby Checker, Let's Twist Again. And then we're back to the music of the present day. And in conversation, you mention the 50s and rock and roll, and people say, "Oh, I love Elvis," and that's it. Or you have a slick back hair and a quiff, and they say, "Oh, you look like Elvis," because that's the only person anyone remembers. And I think it's a great shame, because Elvis didn't write music. And his sound is a white commercial sound. It doesn't sound like rock and roll, from what I know it, because I've studied the history of rock and roll and rhythm and blues. Rock and roll should be shaped around black music and should be blues based. Rock and roll should be edgy, loud, angry, and not pleasant sounding. It should be aggressive, moody, and whiny. It should have attitude. It should not be polished, and it should be creative. And Elvis didn't do any of those things. His music is polished, and all these other people that pretend to play the blues, for example, Eric Clapton, for example, is too nice. Elvis was a spoilt hamburger eating person who died on the toilet. Now, in order to address this problem, there are all sorts of artists that I do recommend that you listen to if you're interested in rock and roll. and I've learnt them all together. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some musicians that might get you on the right track if you're interested in listening to proper rock and roll that is exciting. But I've also added some rhythm and blues artists, because there's obviously a crossover from all over, well, mostly America, but some other places as well. So I've put in jump jive artists, because there's an obvious interlap, a link between that and rock and roll, jump blues, and some R&B artists. I've lumped them all together rather than categorise them in different sections, and they're all sorts of varying sorts. So these are some of the people that I think are worth listening to, and have got attitude, and have got that black music sound. And some of the artists, I have mentioned a few white people, because white people can do it as well. For example, one of my favourite artists is Doc Pomus. But the reason why he did so well is because he sounded black, and he had attitude. Rock and roll, rhythm and blues, jump blues, all of these various spin-offs needs to have that attitude and the aggressive attack. So here's some of the artists I think that are worth listening to: Wally Dean, Roy Gaines, Chuck Berry, Eddie Lang, Jimmy Rushing, Clarence Garlow, Danny Run Joe Taylor, Jimmy Witherspoon, Sugar Boy Williams, Carl Perkins, Link Ray, Junior Thompson, Lafayette Thomas, Freddie Hall, Gene Vincent, Chan Romero, Bobby Wayne, Gene Terry, Chuck Higgins, Johnny Guitar Watson, Johnny Otis, Rick Carty, Johnny Ace, Beretta Dillard, Roscoe Jordan, Lloyd Price, Big Joe Turner, Pete Johnson, H-Bomb Ferguson, Billy Wright, Baby Calloway, Choice Key, Jimmy McCracklin, Big Maybell. I've included some early blues artists: Booker White and Robert Johnson, R.B. Stidham, Leroy Washington, Buddy Johnson, Little Walter, Helen Humes, Nappy Brown. Mentioned Doc Pomus earlier. Doc Pomus, Guitar Shorty, Freddie King, T-Bone Walker, Jesse Price, Wynonie Harris, Jimmy Lunsford, Tommy Brown. And there are hundreds and hundreds of other great artists in the 30s, 40s, 50s, early 60s that can be added to this list. Again, just to reiterate, I've some of these artists probably be placed in the jump blues category, and many of them play rock and roll, and there's an obvious link between the two. And some people that I mentioned here would be in the rhythm blues category. Of course, there's as tantamount to jump blues, and blues is often synonymous with rhythm blues. But a lot of these people play rock and roll and can be put in that category. When people talk about rock and roll and rock music, they don't know what they're talking about. And here's an example why I don't like Elvis. And that's all from me for now. I'm David Kraft, and I play rhythm blues in Soho and in Shoreditch and around that area. And thanks for listening. Okay, bye-bye.